Hey guys, welcome to the Pop Culture Corner. Today we have a special, fun, and cool video for you. We're going to be talking about who are the Eternals and how Thanos fits into the story. With the teaser just dropping for Eternals, I figured this would be a good chance to spotlight who are the Eternals, what their abilities are, why Thanos will be in the story, who are Deviants, and who are the Celestials. All right, guys. Before we get into that, make sure that you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, consider becoming a patron, and gain access to tons of exclusives, including behind-the-scenes content, exclusive streams, discounted merch, early access, and so much more. With that being said, guys, let's get into it. Created by Jack Kirby in 1976, but actually our story begins in 1970. Jack Kirby left Marvel Comics to go work at DC Comics, where he began the saga of the New Gods, an epic story involving mythological and science fiction concepts. He planned to have a concrete ending, however, the story was left incomplete after the cancellation of the titles. Kirby then began working on the Eternals when he returned to Marvel. The Eternals saga was thematically similar to the New Gods, and the series was also eventually canceled without resolving many of its plots. Debuting in Eternals #1, where we are taken on an archaeological dig in the Andes Mountains, which lays the groundwork for the entire series. The Eternals, and subsequently the Deviants, were created by the gods, the Celestials. The Eternals are a godlike race of cosmic beings who have secretly lived amongst us on Earth for thousands and thousands of years since the time of immemorial. So, who makes up the Eternals, you may ask? I've never heard of them before. Ty, who are they? Well, I got you covered. Their names are Kingo, Ikaris, Sersi, Gilgamesh, Phastos, Thena, Sprite, Makare, Druid, Ajak, and finally Dane, Whitman, who then becomes the Black Knight. Well, Ty, what are their powers? What are their abilities? Who are these people? I can't just know their names. Well, I also got you covered. The cosmic energy can be channeled for a number of superhuman abilities. All Eternals are potentially capable of the following: superhuman strength. Their strength can be increased as a result of years of focusing some of their energy towards that purpose. Projecting concussive blasts, heat and or blinding flashes of energy from their eyes and hands. Flight and levitating others. Reading, controlling minds. Generating illusions. Teleporting vast distances. Though most Eternals prefer not to use this ability, as many find it uncomfortable. Transmuting objects, altering both their shape and composition. The extent of this ability may vary. And finally, force field generation, providing invulnerability to harm. Well, Ty, you might ask, well, what's their backstory? When the Celestials visited Earth 1 million years ago and performed experiments on early proto-humans, they created two races: the long-lived Eternals and the genetically unstable and grotesque Deviants. These experiments also led to the capacity for super-powered mutations in humans, for example, the X-Men mutant gene. They also performed this experiment on other planets, such as the Kree and Skrull homeworlds, with similar results. And speaking of the Skrulls, it's likely that the MCU will alter some of the origins like they did in Spider-Man Far From Home with the Elementals and the Skrulls in Captain Marvel. But let's stick to what we know to be the origins. And we'll tie it into how Thanos was always going to be a part of the story later. Despite looking human, Eternals are much longer lived, but were not originally a full immortal race, and that kept them from having much contact with their human cousins. Eternals have a low birth rate. They can interbreed with humans, but the result is always a normal human. Although, Joey Athena, son of Thena, and a normal human, seems to have become an Eternal with long-lived properties and powers. Despite this, the Eternals have in general protected the human race, especially from Deviants, with whom they have had a gripe for centuries. Who are the Deviants? The Deviants, they are an offshoot of the evolutionary process that created sapient life on Earth, instigated by the alien Celestials, and wage war against their counterparts, the Eternals. According to the account of one Deviant in 2006 comic book miniseries, the Deviants were created as a delicacy to be consumed en masse by Celestials at periodic intervals once they had multiplied sufficiently. The veracity of this is yet to be proven. While the Eternals possess godlike powers and are generally physically beautiful, the Deviants, who sometimes refer to themselves as the Changing People, are for the most part hideous, with each member of their race possessing some random physical and or cosmetic mutation that is by celestial design, never repeated within the subspecies. Extremely mutated or deformed deviants are referred to as mutates, and some of the monsters of myth and legend have in fact been identified as deviant mutates. Some of these mutations can provide superhuman abilities, but their powers are usually not as great as those of the Eternals. They are the opposite of Eternals, the Kree to the Skrulls. Kingo. Limited appearances in Marvel Comics. His power set is not entirely known. Mostly shared abilities and swordsmanship. Ikaris. Described as the all-powerful. Instead of focusing on one ability, he channels his energy in a way that has made him adapt with all of his powers, making him better than average, but not the best in each area. Good at a lot, but not great at any one thing. He's the second strongest Eternal. Gilgamesh. The only Earth-based Eternal stronger than Ikaris is Gilgamesh, who will be played by Don Lee. He ranks in the top among the Marvel Universe when it comes to strength, as he's on the same level as Thor and Hercules, and above heroes like Captain Marvel, Namor, and more. This, combined with his other natural abilities as an Eternal, may make him a contender for the MCU's most powerful character when the Eternals hits theaters in November. Phastos. Where Gilgamesh has focused his raw power, Phastos is more experienced with using his energy as a ranged weapon. All Eternals share this ability, but Phastos' cosmic rays are extra dangerous. Phastos also brings a talent for creating and manipulating technology and weapons. In the MCU, it is listed that he will be an inventor just like in the source material. Thena, a fierce warrior, the daughter of Zurus, the one-time leader of the Eternals. Thena, who spent centuries training her powers and is an expert in creating and wielding various forms of weaponry. Favorite being a powerful golden spear and crossbow that can emit bolts of energy as seen in the teaser for the MCU Eternal film. She will be played by Angelina Jolie. Sersi, and no, not that Sersi. Even though both the Stark boys are in the film, the character Sersi in the Eternals can manipulate matter on a grand scale. She outshines all Eternals in this category, and she can take molecules in a person or object and reshape them into whatever she pleases. For example, Sersi could transform Iron Man into a cup, if that's her intention. Sersi, who has more fun with her powers than most Eternals, also has potential for destruction. Sprite. Nope, not the tasty soft drink, but the immortal child who's mostly just average with abilities, except for a matter of manipulation. Sprite isn't near Sersi, but still among the only characters who comes close, often using this skill as a trickster, similar to our fan favorite Loki. The character is one of 3 to be gender swapped in the upcoming Eternals film. Makari, a speedster, because every great team needs one. In the comic books, Makari is determined to be the fastest person in the universe. In the past, even managed to outrun Quicksilver. I don't think we'll be seeing that in the MCU anytime soon, as Quicksilver, well, you know. Druid! For the most part, Druid's powers are comparable to his fellow Eternals, but there are 2 areas in particular where he excels. Druid is quite skilled in the manipulation of matter, but like Sprite, his prowess with the ability still isn't as impressive as Sersi's. One power that he seems to have greater control over than any other member of his race is telepathy. He has a great deal of experience in reading people's minds and manipulating their thoughts. His mastery over this power has even allowed him to telepathically force people into doing his bidding. Ajak. Ajak has all the powers of the average Eternal, but can do one thing that the others can't. He can communicate with their creators, the Celestials. This makes Ajak essential to the group. Since the Celestials visit the Earth periodically to pass judgment on the planet, this ability may have something to do with Salma Hayek's Ajak being selected to lead the MCU Eternals. Finally, Dane Whitman, aka the Black Knight, will be played by Kit Harington in the film. Whitman isn't a member of the Eternals. Regardless, he'll be an integral part of the film, engaging in a relationship with Sersi and likely helping out the team in one capacity or another. Entirely human, Whitman's main attribute was his genius-level intellect, especially in the field of physics and genetics. Upon taking ownership of the Ebony Blade, however, Dane took on the mantle of Black Knight. In that persona, he was gifted magical senses, as well as enhanced strength, speed, and more. To go with his already considerably swordsmanship, with them, Black Knight went on to become a member of the Avengers. Thanos is the son of two Eternals. However, he possesses the Deviant gene. I'm sure by now you understand how unlucky that is, as the Deviants are widely seen as, well, undesirable to say the least. In the film, I would say the Thanos plotline will be more central, or at least a larger reveal than it is in the comics, due to the fact that Thanos is the biggest villain we've seen in the MCU. Kevin Feige surely won't pass up the chance to rock general audiences with the reveal during the film. At one point in the source material, Thanos of the Eternals of Titan nearly destroyed the Eternals colony, but they rebuilt it and would help Earth's heroes to oppose him on several occasions. Thanos is considered an outsider in how he thinks, and even though he is technically born from two Eternals, he is widely more considered a deviant, and as opposed to so. In the MCU, we hear Thanos talking about how he proposed his idea about snapping away half the universe to his people, and he was basically laughed out of the room. The people he proposed this idea to were Eternals of Titan. Thanos was and will always be a part of the Eternals story, due to him being the biggest threat to Earth and its heroes, which the Eternals protect in secret, causing many conflicts amongst them. We will most likely see a younger Thanos in the Eternals film, but not a child, a young man who is starting his quest. That way, it will give audiences some backstory and fill in gaps. It will also let us see a different side of the main bad guy of the Infinity Saga. Alright guys, that's going to do it for our video today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something about who the Eternals and why Thanos will show up in this film. As always guys, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, consider becoming a patron of the show to help support. You'll gain access to tons of exclusives, including, but not limited to, behind the scenes content, early access, private streams, discounted merchandise, and pretty much anything else I can think of. Alright guys, we do it for you, and we do it for the culture.